about the entire ecosystem or the business values. They're deeper into it. So I thought it's a very interesting subject. So, and then of course he reached out to Mr. Malhotra ji, who doesn't need the introduction, but just most of us who are in this room, we know him. If you have not known, I'll just read a brief introduction about him. So, having graduated in physics from St. Stephen's College and with a law degree from Delhi University and management degree from UK, Mr. Malhotra joined the Indian Administrative Services. So what you see, the entire new Noida area was his master plan. So I think the people who are coming from Gurgaon might be thinking that we must thank him, people who are coming from Noida. So he had experience in diverse domains at the national and international levels. He also worked as an advisor to the UNDP on certain projects related to the field of art and craft. He is a follower of Bhagavad Gita. He envisions a synthesis of science and spirituality. He has written 26 books. In fact, I would request all of you to see, there are a few books which are kept on the table at the entry gate on different subjects, covering management, soft skills, and leadership. His interest in music and the fine arts led him to create musical compositions and poetry, largely in the devotional subject. His lectures on spirituality, happiness, leadership, and education are most sought after. At times we joke around and I say that if Shakespeare had to write all the world's a stage, then perhaps he would be forced to rewrite the 7th stage where he says that when we enter the old age, we are without taste, without eyes, sense everything. Trust me, he's just opposite of what he had written. Brimming with ideas, in fact, has a community of thousands of young professionals and experienced professionals where we are on this journey and the path of the spiritual learnings through him. So just a brief introduction about him. I'll also quickly set up the context about today's session, which is called change. Now, when we talk about change, we are going to be touching upon, like Raghu rightly mentioned, from physical to metaphysical, from religion to spirituality, from spirituality to science. So if we talk about Indian scriptures form the spiritual and philosophical backbone of one of the world's oldest civilizations. If you simply do a ChatGPT search, you will find the value and insight. These two are the most commonly used terms which are coming out of ChatGPT. So the whole chain of value system, to understand this, it's important to get deeper into the Indian scriptures. From Vedas to Upanishads, from epic narratives of Ramayana and Mahabharata to symbolic richness of Puranas, these texts have shaped the ethical and cultural and intellectual landscape of India for hundreds of years. They offer timeless insights into human nature, consciousness and duty. Trust me, when I started the journey, and during the course of discussion, I'll be sharing some of the insights which I personally have experienced, not just in personal life, but in professional life as well. So you just pick any shloka. So today we'll be focusing more on the Bhagavad Gita. You can pick any shloka. Karmanya vadika raste mafaleshu kadachana. Or matra sparshaastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada. Or yamahina vyatyante te purusham sabha. All these shlokas, it's very scientific in nature, and you'll get answers to most of the questions you have. Not just the questions related to your day-to-day life, but professionally also. I've been traveling for the past 2 quarters. I was in Singapore last year. So we at Reliance, we are also setting up this higher education institution in Mumbai. It's called Geo Institute. And we have an effective collaboration with NUS and NTU Singapore. When I was there on the campus, you'll be surprised to know there are 13 research papers on Bhagavad Gita. Professors have picked certain shlokas and they are getting deeper into it. Not just there, I have listed down few universities which are, so Yale University has launched a teacher training program in Bhagavad Gita. We have MIT, which has started certificate programs in Bhagavad Gita. We have Oxford University, again, there are around 9 ongoing research in Bhagavad Gita. So there's a URL, it's called Oxford Archives. If you go there, you'll find all these research papers. We have Cornell University, which has set up a unit of Sanskrit under the Asian Studies Development. Now, one of the units under this is only on Bhagavad Gita. So it's not just about where we are, but globally there is a growing interest about this whole concept and way of life. So, but it is also important to highlight here that while Indian scriptures are deeply rooted in their own spiritual tradition, they carry a message for entire humanity, and that is, truth can be approached in many forms with respect, openness, and a shared journey towards wisdom and compassion. So, of course, in the presentation, we have brief presentation, we will be talking about difference between religion and spirituality. So many a times we get confused with this. We feel that they are same. There are a lot of similarities, but there are differences as well. There is a famous shlok in Bhagavad Gita. It says, "Ye yatha mam tad dyapin tat tatumbi bhajamaham." So pronunciation is perhaps not correct. Our guru will correct me. But this means Krishna reaffirms that God responds to sincerity and not sect or religion, where through love, knowledge, or service, all genuine seeking is divine seeking. Great thinkers like Swami Vivekananda has envisioned and said this long ago, that science and religion will meet and shake hands. Steve Jobs, we all know, we must have heard of this catchy dham, where he spent a lot of time and he got spiritual awakening from there. In his book, Business as a Platform for Change, Salesforce founder Mark Benioff highlights the impact of Indian spirituality on his strategic leadership and decision making. He also adds that I try to keep my decisions rooted in spiritual consciousness. Sundar has acknowledged that influence of Indian spiritual text and how this grounding helps him make balanced and thoughtful business decisions. In the past couple of months, a lot of consulting folks also came for certain presentations, business presentations. And I was glad to see in several business presentations, Gita was prominently mentioned. Why? It talked about pragmatic leadership and strategic framework. So I also feel that and I was told that many of us are from the consulting world, I see there's a huge scope of also taking this as a parallel initiative for not just India, for global landscape as well. And why I say this, there is a certain framework which is mentioned in Gita as well. I'll just read three for your easy reference. One is purpose-driven leadership, which means swadhyam, swadharma. Then we have detachment from outcomes, nishkam karma. Clarity in chaos, which means sthit pragya. So if you get deeper into it, of course, for most of you, perhaps for the first time you're listening to such conversations, but trust me, once you get deeper into it, it will make a business sense as well. So with this, I would now request Mr. Malhotra ji to officially start the session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Just sit down here.
Yeah.
Raghu and Shiv has been extremely kind in saying all wonderful things about that. I'm maybe even I able to get a fraction of all that what they've said, I shall be extremely grateful to Almighty. You see, I want this session to be a little more interactive. I don't really merely want to talk to you people. I just want you to experience what I'm talking about. And you see, unlike several other religions in the world, I would say the Vedanta philosophy is deeply experiential. And let me try and share that some of the insights that we can bring it from Vedanta, from Upanishads. And finally, as Raghu very rightly pointed out, it all will culminate into the spirituality and science. You see, several scientists the world over, starting from Albert Einstein or Robert Oppenheimer or Schrödinger, Heisenberg, these are great scientists, physicists of the previous century. All of them, I can assure you, are deeply wedded to the cause of Indian spirituality. In fact, there's a gentleman called Schopenhauer, who's also some kind of a guru to Albert Einstein. In 1918, he made a statement that Upanishad is probably the most valuable book that he came across in the world. And that shall be the solace of his life, and that also would be the solace of his death. So coming as it does from a scientist of that repute to make a statement about Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita with such sweeping profundity, I think says extremely, has fantastic things to say about the kind of heritage and the kind of spiritual wisdom our country possesses. So let me start this session with a bit of interactive, so I want all of you to look at me and smile and be completely relaxed, absolutely relaxed. Put your hands down if you want to, or keep them on your lap, wherever. But important thing is to give instruction from your intellect. You see, all that we do perform, all actions we perform are directed through electrical processes which goes through our nerve system. On our cerebral cortex, we've got a lot of electricity happening. So 50 billion neurons which keep on interacting, all kinds. So all kinds of thoughts that are happening. Most of the time, it's a mindless chatter, useless chatter that keeps on happening. So I want you to bring that to a bit of a close. So fundamentally, what we're trying to do is to reach a state of, when we do meditation, what we're trying to do is to reach a state of thoughtless consciousness. We are conscious, but thoughts stop coming in. In fact, you'll be surprised. The classic definition of yoga, as propounded by Maharshi Patanjali, if all of you do practice yoga, which is called Ashtanga Yoga or Raja Yoga, it's got 8 elements. And most of us probably do only the asana and pranayama, which is only 1/8 of the overall paradigm of yoga. It starts with yam, niyam, asana, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. Most of us do only just the asana, the very body-centric process. And the classic definition of yoga given by Patanjali is yogaschitta vritti nirodha. My apologies for using different languages, including English, Hindi, Sanskrit, a bit of an Urdu and a bit of a French, but never mind. You will not miss anything. If Sanskrit is a little difficult, I'll make sure that I translate that. So all of you won't miss anything at all. So this is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It has 4 words. Classic definition of yoga is stopping the modification of thought process in your mind is yoga. If you're able to bring, so it's very, very metaphysical. It's very, very subtle. Contrary to our general belief that yoga is only asanas and putting your head down and legs up, etc. But classic definition is that. So if you are able to reach that stage of creating a thoughtless consciousness in our cerebral cortex or hypothalamus or whatever you call it, you are heading towards the process of yoga. So what I want you to do, I'm sure by this time you're all relaxed. Shut your eyes for 1.5 minutes. Let your thoughts, at any given point of time, our mind is never at rest. Thoughts keep on coming, crisscrossing. In fact, according to one survey, during 24 hours time, something like 20,000 thoughts come and go. And most of them I have absolutely no connection with it. It's a very incoherent thought. So what we should do for 90 seconds, I'll count that. For 90 seconds, shut your eyes and watch the flow of thoughts crisscrossing your mind. Now, I'll tell you when to start. Your time will begin when I tell you to do that. We'll start counting 90 seconds after that. But fundamental rules are 2. Don't force yourself to bring any thought. Let it stream like a river, let it flow in a normal sense. And normally it would possibly flow in a very automation kind of a mode. We seldom have any control on the flow of thoughts unless we are conscious. So let it flow on its own. And you be an observer, a sakshi. The word is sakshi. You be an observer of your thoughts. I hope everything is clear. Any doubts? Just shut your eyes, 1.5 minutes. Let thoughts flow in unimpeded, unhindered manner, and just watch it as an observer. So your time starts now. Okay, great. We can all come back. Wonderful. I just, on a random basis, I want to ask one or two of you just to share what are the kind of thoughts that came inside your mind. Young man, can you tell us? What are the thoughts? Just share on a random basis. What did you think during 1.5 minutes?
So it actually transcended through field of some sports which I seem to relate.
Mike.
It actually transcended through just recent travel, sports I've seen in the day.
All right.
Also some stuff at work. There was no real structure to it.
Okay. It is all very random and incoherent. Nothing sequentially not connected with each other. Sir, can I ask you? Yeah, why not? I mean, let's have the same age, so I suppose we can connect.
I have no thoughts. So only I was feeling like that.
Watching your breath. Oh, fantastic. Great. You're already a seasoned Anybody else want to share?
Maybe somebody from this table.
Somebody from the back side? Raghu, do you want to share? What are the thoughts which came in bent?
I was also pretty blank. So
so all of you are already accomplished people, so I don't really need to. Somebody, yes?
The backbenchers.
Anybody?
since I'm coming from the golf course, first I was really complete. I was focusing on my rhythm of my thoughts. That was the first kind of place where I went. And I spent a lot of time on a certain river at the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. I was standing on the edge of that river and watching a herd of elephants kind of go by. So that was my second, this slow motion things moving in front of me.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think this is purely symbolic. I don't really need to ask everyone here. It just demonstrates the fact that at any given point of time, we are not in control of our mind. We are not in control of our thoughts. It all happens in automation mode. And largely, the thoughts enter in our mind on a default mode. Since we are not in control of that, and as I said, absolutely mindless chatter keeps on happening. One thought enters, goes out, another thought enters, goes out, and they have absolutely no connect at all. Golf and Rajaji, tigers, sports, etc. This is just a kind of symbolic. Now, please reflect on another question, which is a more important question I'm asking you. Please reflect, who was it who was watching the thought? When the thoughts were going inside your mind, who was the observer? Who was it? Now, before I just keep that, stay with this particular question, I'll ask you once I've given you a deconstruct of what all do we have really. You see, most of us are in a very body-mind complex obsession and conditioning all our life. Ever since the beginning of civilization, we're all talking about body and mind, body and mind. And we purely do everything possible to cleanse that, to do everything possible to make sure that your body, mind is sharp and body looks good. But this is what Vedanta tells you, that, and one of the greatest, compositions by probably one of the finest philosophers India has produced, Adi Shankaracharya in the 9th century. Mano buddhi hankar chittani nahim nacha doshati te nacha grana netre nacha vyoman bhumi na tejo navayu chidananda roop shivohum shivom. The operative parts are chidananda roop shivohum shivom. Mano buddhi hankar chittani nahim. What he says, I'm not the man, I'm not the buddhi, I'm not ahankar, I'm not even power of healing or teaching or swallowing or touching. I'm pure Chidanand, Chit Anand, consciousness and bliss, Shivoham Shivoham. So let me just bring you out and try and deconstruct, as I said, what each one of us possesses. What is the kind of endowment that we have been invested with by God, by nature. There's a very beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. Indriyani paranyahu indrebhe paramana manasastu parabuddhe yo buddhe paratastusa. Now, don't get intimidated. I shall translate that. It's very simple. Indriyani, we all know, knowledge, senses. In fact, before I explain, go into the greater detail, just have a vivid description of, most of you must have seen the pictures of Mahabharata. I'm sure all of you have seen. And in Mahabharata, a typical picture is a chariot where Krishna is holding the reins. Arjuna is sitting inside as a passenger. There are horses, and Krishna is sitting there right as a charioteer holding the reins. So, symbolically, the analogy drawn from one of the great Upanishads called Katha Upanishad is that chariot is a human body. Senses are the horses. We all know they keep on running amok unless they're controlled. All our senses keep on running helter-skelter unless they're, I want this, I want that. And reins are the mind. In fact, see, English is a terrible language, you know. Mind is such an ambivalent kind of, but we use it both for man and buddhi. Don't mind, do you have a mind? Please don't mind. I mean, we use it both for buddhi and man, but I would stick myself to the word that we all can relate to, mana, buddhi, ahankara. These are all words which are familiar to all of us. So, reins are the man. Man is very chanchal, it's very vacillating, but has some kind of a tentative control on the senses. Sometimes he says, don't do that, let's not do it. Sometimes it sort of succumbs to the temptations. But the most powerful entity that you have is represented by Krishna, which is your intellect, which is your consciousness. So, if you look at that structure, so all of us, if you look at yourself in the mirror, or you can even imagine yourself, you have the gross body, the 6 levels of hierarchical structure that all of us have. Please relate yourself to that when I'm discussing it. The first is the gross body, nicely packaged body. We spend so many hours to doing it up and cleaning it up, etc. But there's only the gross part of it. Everything else, that's a physical part. So we're going from physical to metaphysical. Physical part, the gross part only is the body, outside body. And the next level is senses. There are knowledge-related senses, Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. Knowledge-related and the work-related. These senses give you an experience of the world, isn't it? They tell you that you're alive. They give you an experience of the world in terms of tasting, touching, seeing, hearing, etc. But they are extremely untrustworthy because they seem to be running like a horse on the chariot. The next level is a man. So man in form of rain sometimes does have the capacity to control it, but not always. The most important part is, like we said, the intellect. So you have body, indriya, man, buddhi, 4 levels. So they're all hierarchical structure. They're all part of a hierarchy, one ladder above another. But hang on, there are 2 more very important dimensions which you often tend to ignore. And they play a very important role in our existence. Next level, which doesn't allow us to see our real self, is what is called ahankara, ego. And once you are able to transcend the ego, you see, all faiths, all religions, all spiritualities ask you to be a seeker to transcend your ego. We are so much obsessed with I, me, myself, we're not able to see the truth. So the next level is ahankara, and if you're able to transcend that ahankara, you reach your soul, your atma, your consciousness, your awareness. Now, can I ask you this question? Who was it that was watching the movement of thoughts in your mind? Who was it? When you say you, I told you about the 6 of you. Who in that 6 was watching the thought?
Soul.
What is soul?
The 6th level you just mentioned. It's all about inner consciousness.
So you were not watching it.
outer self is body.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, I'm coming to that. You're quite close to the truth. But in fundamental terms, so therefore, you were not the body, the mind, and the intellect and ego, but you were talking about soul. The soul was watching it. Or let me say, in clearer terms, consciousness. Consciousness is also equated to soul in the sense that we call it several names: chitta, chetana, clabium, consciousness, awareness, etc. So one very important insight that I want to give you is what is called drishya drishta concept. Would you agree with me that the seen and the seer are different? Is it right? The seer cannot be the same as seen. Drishya drishta. For example, if I'm looking at my hand, I'm looking at my hand, I'm not the hand. So hand is different from me. Similarly, when you're looking at the consciousness you talked about, consciousness, watching, observing your thoughts in intellect and mind is different from the mind and the body. I hope all of you are there because it's very important for you to take this particular. That would be the fundamental concept for you to understand who you really are. Our journey from physical to metaphysical is extremely important. I'll come back when I start talking about science and spirituality. I'll tell you, the world over, the concept of consciousness today is engaging the attention of one of the greatest scientists, neuroscience philosophers the world over. Please look at the book called Heart Problem of Consciousness by David Chalmer. He's currently head of the New York Science Department. David Chalmer, Chalmer. Just look at that. That's the most debated kind of subject the world over, consciousness study. Now study whether, we also have a concept like, I don't want to give you an overdose of spiritual philosophy because it's a huge topic and I don't think Raghu is going to give me more time, but it can go endlessly. The concept of Sankhya Yoga and Jnana Yoga and all these things happening where we talk in terms of two dimensions. One gentleman called Kapil Muni, whom Vivekananda called as the first philosopher of the mankind, about 5,000 years ago, he's the one who's propounded what is called Sankhya Yoga philosophy. So Sankhya Yoga talks in terms of two dimensions, Prakriti and Purush. We all are Purush, and whatever is outside of us is Prakriti. Please mark my word. You are the Purush, representative of Brahman, pure consciousness. And everything outside is Prakriti, nature. So all that you experience all that you experience of the world is purely an appearance in your consciousness. Right? Let me give you another example, simple example. We could say consciousness is like this bulb here. Now these bulbs are very agnostic to who comes and who goes. If Shishir stays in the room, it's okay. If he comes back into this room, it's not going to affect it. If Prakash also moves and takes a glass of milk or whatever, the light is not affected. But light is what actually gives you an experience of your presence. I hope, so that the consciousness gives you an experience of whatever is happening outside. So that's self-effulgent, that's consciousness. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first kind of, I hope it's not too heavy, but as we move forward, we will discover and unearth several other dimensions. But be that as it may, in your metaphysical structure as a human being, please believe me, you are not only the body and the mind. And the most powerful, so the physical part, physical to metaphysical part, I'll stop here. And maybe I'll ask.
You want to sit here or
you carry on? Let me see if I can sit here or go there.
Okay.
It's okay.
So I think you have already touched upon the physical to metaphysical, but I would want you to kind of spend a few minutes in explaining this whole change subject, because I remember during our presentation and when we were discussing it, you spoke about different aspects of change. So maybe 4 to 5 minutes you can spend here and explain the change to us.
Okay. So you please look at the, just for a minute, just look at the statement quotations here. The one which I'm most fond of, probably doesn't figure in here. That is a French quotation. Plus ça change, plus ça let mes choses, plus ça change, plus ça let mes sa chose. What it actually means. Does anybody understand French here? What actually it means, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Now, please reflect on this. You know, my father used to tell me, कितना बुरा ज़माना आ गया, हमारे ज़माने में इतना बढ़िया होता करता था, वक्त इतना बुरा आ गया. I say the same thing to my son. In our times, we had such wonderful, connect with him. He's saying the same thing to his son. He's sitting right here. So the more thing that, because fundamentally, we haven't changed. All this statement that you see here, in a sense, do talk about change, but let's all accept the fact that unless we change ourselves, so therefore, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Be often, most of you must have seen the film called My Fair Lady, based upon the Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, with Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. So one of the statements Rex Harrison makes about Audrey Hepburn, when Audrey Hepburn doesn't listen to him, he says, "I'm so infuriating, so exasperating. Women are terrible. Why can't you be like us? Why can't women be like men?" Obviously, they cannot be. So you can't possibly force the change to happen. So if you want to change, if you want to see the change happening, be the change that you want to be. And one more statement which I just want to add, which I probably missed out in the earlier one, is when I was talking about the metaphysical part of it, see one great statement by a Christian Jesuitist, a great profound statement. He said, we all human beings are spiritual entities who come to the world for a physical experience. We are not physical entities who come to the world for a physical experience. It's a very profound statement. Just reflect upon it. And one more statement Vivekananda made, that we all need to humanize our relationship with God. We need to humanize our relationship. We put him up in the pedestal, far away. Pandit doesn't let you get close to that. We need to humanize our relationship, get closer to him like Arjun got close to Krishna. We need to humanize our relationship with God and divinize our relationship with our human beings. Treat them as and that's what really the great philosophy, and I'm just say a few words about religious and spirituality, then I'll move on to that. Because somehow when you get into flow, it becomes difficult.
So I think you have touched upon the physical to metaphysical. You have touched upon some of the important learnings we have from Vedanta philosophy. Of course, when we look at Bhagavad Gita, you have been also talking a lot about the transformation and how it's a balance of all the yogic karmas, which is karma yoga, jnana yoga, love yoga, bhakti yoga, and discipline, which is Raja Yoga. So it's important for us to also understand the difference between the religion and the spiritual part of it, which I would want to talk about.
You see, one of the greatest movement which is happening in the West these days, especially in America and Europe and other countries, what is called SBNR. Has anybody heard about this acronym called SBNR? It stands for spiritual but not religious. It's amazing where the young generation is moving in that direction. They don't want to get into fetters of belonging to a particular faith. I'm fed up being called a Muslim, I'm fed up being called Hindu, I'm fed up being called Christian. I much rather belong to a faith which, like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the concept that we have. That's what really is the difference between religion and spirituality. Religion creates a block, it creates a flock of people and protects them with all their might. Religion is divisive. Religion is only purely ritualistic. I have no reasons to disabuse any of you to follow, not to follow the religion that you're following. That's a faith. But please understand that staying at a peripheral level of being religious actually does not give you the kind of wisdom and the kind of removes suffering from life. You really have to rise above and reach that level of spirituality. You know, the interesting thing is, I'll give you two instances of how similar are the concept and thought process of people who originally founded the religions. I'll give you two examples, one from Adi Shankaracharya and one from the Urdu poet. So firstly from Adi Shankaracharya, which is Yogaratova Bhogaratova Sangaratova Sangavihina Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam Nandati Nandati Nandati. I'll explain the meaning. Yogaratova Bhogaratova. Either stay in the state of yoga, spiritual, Bhogaratova, or keep enjoying yourself, pleasure, hedonistic, whatever you want to do. We all keep doing that. Yogarato va bhogarato, either. Sangarato va sangavihina. Either stay attached or stay detached. No problem. Yes, but yes, Brahmani ramate chittam. The beautiful word, you know, Sanskrit and Hindi are such a beautiful word. We stopped using that. So we are deprived of so much pleasure of such beauty of lyrical language of Sanskrit. I think we you know, my biggest concern today is that people from the West took away a lot of our wealth during the last 500, 600, 700 years. When Englishmen came, Islams came, they plundered our wealth. So that's no problem, material wealth. But now they are threatening to take away our knowledge. They're threatening, and they are starting program of Sanskrit study, Vedanta. You know, the first set of Upanishads that were translated into English from here, one first was by a person called Dara Shikoh, who was the son of Aurangzeb, who was later killed because Aurangzeb didn't tolerate him as doing something called Hinduism. The second one is Max Muller. He translated that first in German and then English. And they got a huge repository of the knowledge that originally belongs to us. And we are deprived of that. What an absolute tragedy. So we need to shake up our souls. We need to shake it up. See where are we heading. So coming back, Yogaratova Bhogaratova Sangaratova Sangarina Yas Brahmani Ramate Chittam Nandati Nandati Nandati. Either stay in yoga or in bhog, or stay detached or attached. If you are connected with God, Brahman, अगर आपका प्यार, आपकी मोहब्बत, आपका इश्क अपने इष्ट देव के साथ हो गया है, then you stay ever in a state of bliss. Nandati Nandati Nandati. आलमा इकबाल के बारे में आपने सुना है? A great poet who wrote this, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा. जब मैं सर जो सजदा कभी हुआ. Please, I mean, I'll translate the Urdu part also. मैं जो सरबा सजदा कभी हुआ, सर को झुका के सजदा किया जब मैंने. You know, normally when sort of we go and do our prayers in a mosque or otherwise, हम लोग सजदा करते. मैं जो सर को झुका के सरबा सजदा कभी हुआ, तो ज़मीन से आने लगी सदा. मैं जो सरबा सजदा कभी हुआ, तो ज़मीन से आने लगी सदा. तेरा दिल तो है सनम आशना, तेरा दिल तो है सनम आशना, तुझे क्या मिलेगा नमाज में. If you have already established your connect with God, Allah, तो नमाज पढ़ के तुमको क्या मिलेगा. So if you are connected with that, see, therefore what I'm trying to say, at fundamental, foundational level, all religions, all founding fathers speak exactly the same language. We, in our interest, we've created what is called a religious fiefdom. Divided people. All conflicts that are happening in the world today are primarily on account of difference between people. One religion against religion. Leave alone the Hitler's thing was cleansing the Jews, but today, largely, mostly, whether it's India, Pakistan, or Gaza, or Israel, or America and Iran, majority of conflicts are happening. You know, most of you heard about a French philosopher called Jean-Paul Sartre. Some of you may have heard about. He was one of the very famous avant-garde philosophers of existentialism. His famous statement is, existence precedes essence. Unlike René Descartes' statement, I think, therefore I am. Another foundational statement that famous philosophers. Interesting, French has such a huge amount of very profound knowledge, very similar to ours. René Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. I exist because I think. But the classic statement made by Jean-Paul Sartre in the context of religion and spirituality, he said this very two words, he said, and that's what really, creates the division between religion and spirituality. He says, hell is other people. Now, it's a very stupid, silly statement to make. Hell is other people. But when you look very closely, the implications become very clear. Everything which is outside of us, everything which is other than us, is a cause of problem for us. Fundamentally. Everything which is, even somebody who is very close to us, is a cause of problem, because once it separates, you go into sufferings, misery. And of course, apart from the hostility or this. So, important thing for us is to understand that if you are able to create that sense of equality, equanimity, and sense of likeness, and that is where understanding of the soul, Brahman, consciousness, you see, one of the questions often asked, if we have the soul, so if there are about 50 people sitting in here, how many souls would there be? How many consciousness would be there? Anybody, any guess? How many consciousness would be there in this hall? Any guess? Wow. Please clap for her. Fantastic. That's what it really is. Light, just one consciousness. One consciousness which permeates the entire universe. One Brahman which creates. You see, Schrödinger, another very famous scientist, he was also responsible for what is called wave particle phenomena. I don't know if you heard about this. Yes, Schrödinger's cat experiment, yes. So, he made a second equation of wave particle phenomena. You know what is the equation? He said, Atman is equal to Brahman. He named that. And he named his God as Atman. So look at the kind of impact the Indian spirituality has across the world over. So the message that I want to share with you about the context of religious and spirituality, be religious if you want to, but don't be merely ritualistic. You see, when do you get spiritual? What are the signs of being spiritual? Anybody can tell me? When do you know that you are not merely at the periphery of being religious, but you are spiritual? What are the symptoms? What are the signs? I'll just give you one insight. This is what Vivekananda said. Spirituality is a manifestation of the divinity which is lying within all of us. It's a very powerful statement. Spirituality is the manifestation of the divinity lying within all of us. You know when you are spiritual. I'll give you another 4 insights. You know when you're spiritual when 4 things happen to you. If you are given to being very angry person, the angry disposition, if you're spiritual, then your frequency of being angry becomes less, right? So if you're getting spiritual, then you understand the futility of being angry. So 3 insights. The frequency, if you were angry once in fortnight, you become angry maybe once in 2 days or 3 days. Bouts of anger start coming down. And secondly, its intensity goes down. If you're spiritual, then you say, what's the point? What the hell am I saying? You intensity, you don't lose control. And thirdly, recovery is much faster. When you're spiritual, you're in complete control of yourself. So please watch when you're becoming spiritual. Stop hating the world, loving everyone. Love is the foundation of deep spirituality. Not hurting anybody, not killing anybody. My grandchildren often ask me, there's an ant crawling, and yesterday there was an ant crawling into our room. So somebody was trying to say, don't kill it. Just pick it up and throw it away. It's not good, causing any harm. So what I'm saying is, so the heart of gold, the heart of love, heart zooming out with pure love for the entire humanity. And especially humanity and compassion for the people who you think are below you. You know, you're not, a lot of people sitting here are extraordinarily successful, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of recognition, but if your emotional quotient, if your spiritual quotient is not very high, I'm not making any comment about that, but I think it's important for us to shift from pure ritualistic religiosity to deep, profound spirituality. And keep on watching whether you are becoming spiritual or not. Whether you are becoming spiritual or not. That's very important.
Raghu, we can go on and on till morning. So I want you to tell me how many minutes do we have?
I think
5 more minutes?
Yeah, we can move on the next session, 5-7 minutes, and then we can get Eloy to present. And
So we have 5-7 minutes?
5-7 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Because I think everyone's getting it because being a Friday thing.
No, I can understand. All right.
Which is why I said we can go on and on.
So,
yeah.
I mean.
So just one important reflection on what he said, that how West is snatching, our own Indian rich, the Vedas and Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita teaching. So how many of us have heard of Carnegie Foundation? I'm sure most of us have, right? US-based firm, they also developed the global standards for US higher education ecosystem. Now they have been tasked and they have got good funding to study Indian Vedas and Bhagavad Gita and to come up with the next set of metrics to transform the higher education in US. So that's what the scale we are looking at as far as the Indian scriptures are concerned. So now perhaps we'll just quickly move to the last slide.
Science spirituality.
The science spirituality, and then we close it.
Yeah. So that subject really has been very close to me, and I just want to take a look at that. I just read. Whenever I give, this gentleman is currently Emeritus President of Max Planck Institute in Berlin. Institute which is occupied by Einstein and Heisenberg and all these people in the previous century. This is what he says. Whenever I give a lecture on quantum physics, I feel as I'm talking on Vedanta. Second line is very important. I studied matter for the last 35 years. I studied matter for the last 35 years only to find out that it does not exist. I've been studying something that does not exist. Exactly what Adi Shankaracharya said long back from Prishad. What I'm trying to suggest through this particular slide is that word over the realization and the difference between spirituality and science is getting blurred, more and more blurred. And earlier we accepted, we realized it, but it is for all of us, for the entire humanity. And mind you, the advent of quantum physics has been a game changer. Till Albert Einstein came in, before that you had Newtonian physics and everything said, okay, we reached the classical physics. But then the myth was broken, Einstein came with his relativity, he says, no, nothing's absolute, everything's relative. Then further down you had the quantum physics. And you had people like Heisenberg, Niels Bohr and all those people. And these are quantum physics people. Quantum physics is exactly what Adi Shankaracharya has been talking about, what Sankhya Yoga has been talking about. Prakriti and Purush. 2 dimensions. Quantum physics today is going to be the next best thing. And you see, fortunately for us, I was telling my colleague here, there never was a most appropriate time for almost a complete convergence of science and spirituality. Because of it, technology has reached such high level where you can peep inside the brain and map the thoughts apart from the next level of MRIs and encephalogram, etc. Today, the movement of neurons which actually decide your thought process can be mapped. So what is going inside, just imagine, people like Elon Musk who are on advanced stage is able to put that chip in the mind of Donald Trump and read all his thoughts. That can happen. So therefore we are in that particular stage where technology is giving you that kind of right and power to be able to influence the the course of action. And quantum physics, as I said, has been an absolute game changer. We are no longer looking at the atom and the particles, the neutrons and electrons and photons. We're looking at quarks. We're looking at Stargangers. And they are disappearing right in front of our eyes. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to tell you, everything else that exists outside of you, everything that exists outside of you, Prakriti Purush, is an illusion. You are the only one who stays eternal. Am Brahmasmi. The biggest message, I shall end with that, the biggest message of Vedanta philosophy is Tattvamasi, thou art that. Am Brahmasmi. Please remember, you are the only one who is there forever. Krishna says, when Arjuna asks him, please take me inside between the two armies and I want to see whom I am fighting against. And he says, I don't want to fight. We all know the story. And Krishna is of course giving him a lecture. He says, Bhavani me vyatitani janmani tavcharjuna tannam bet sarvani natvam beta parantapa. He says, you and I have had several births in this universe. All these rajas and kings and soldiers, he tells him, look, their death has already come. You only become nimitta matra bhava sabya sachin. You will become an instrument of my wish. They're already dead. Whether you die, whether you kill them or not, doesn't make a difference. But they're all. So, but he says, you are, please remember, you're always there, eternal, pristine. Just take that, the Oppenheimer. When Krishna talks about Oppenheimer's, the last one that, yeah, okay, just keep that. You see, when atom bombs were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Robert Oppenheimer made true statement. He sourced them from Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 11. You can all look at that if you're fond of reading Gitas once in a while. 11th chapter, verse number 12 and 11th chapter, verse number 32. He says the sight, when the Virat Swarup is shown to Arjun, he says the sight of 1,000 suns in the sky could not match the brilliance exhibited by the Virat Swarup. And then he says, I come here as a death. Kalo asmi, that's what Robert Oppenheimer quoted. Kalo asmi lokakshay krit praviddo. I'm here as a destruction, I'm at the death. Watch out. So,
I think
just one last bit that you must see, the change part. No, wo jo isse pehle wala tha.
This one.
These are the kind of change, these are the kind of elements that you must look at. In fact, one of my books, which is probably lying outside, talks basically about these 4 paradigms of yoga. Essentially, you have the problem, you have the solution, and you have the method. Ignorance, method is knowledge, Gyan Yoga. Scattered mind, focus, Dhyan Yoga. Impure mind, pure mind, Karma Yoga. The game of golf is a great example of Karma Yoga. You observe, you keep focus on your ball, and you don't lift your head to see where the ball, you don't look at the result, you focus on the ball, that's Karma Yoga. And you get maximum result. So anyway, so lack of faith, of course, Bhakti Yoga, which is very fundamental. Any one of these, or all combined together, will take you to your destination. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. I think it's always very fascinating to listen to you. And I think, Raghu, for the next session, if there is an interest, I can give you one topic. Is free will really free? So we'll have a next discussion on this topic. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And I hope it was not boring for the audience.
Thank you, Uncle. Thank you so much for blessing us. And thank you, Shiv,
Thank you.
for doing this session. I would now